doing a little bit of hollowing, but not much. But always like to clean things up inside, and just the teardrop is not my.
You,
I'm just not using it real well. So
Jeff, don't you have a teardrop,
yeah,
a carbide teardrop? I mean, that cleans up the inside something first, but
yeah. I don't.
it's better than anything else.
Okay, I don't think I've got a carbide. I think I've just got one. It's
Okay.
hollowing tools are not my strong suit right now, but
You can put a negative rake on your teardrop, Jeff, and that'll help you out.
okay.
Yeah.
Make it a lot more forgiving.
Yep. Yeah, I can do that with my hippie stand on my grinder.
Oh,
You're not talking about your age then.
No, robo hippie. I think. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, let's see. Hey, Bruce, can you keep an eye out for people in the waiting room? Once I start the meeting, I don't notice that as much. And we still have people popping in here, so I don't know if we'll have more.
Okay, I'll do that.
I made you co-host. I think I made Fred co-host too. But
Yeah, I've been admitting them, Doug.
Okay. All right. So I think we're getting close to starting this meeting. So I'm going to let's see. I think I'm going to spot.
I do see Ruby joined us from Canada.
Okay, I'm starting this meeting here, so let's go here in a second. It didn't cut to the opening screen here. Hang on, let me get my thing here. Lost my iPad. What happened here? Hey, hang on 1 second while I check a setting here. Something has my controller here quit working. You know how that is. Something's going wrong. Something can go wrong. It will. Okay, well, I guess we're just going to start this meeting right now. Welcome, everybody, to our meeting. This is the Grand River Woodturners Guild, our September general meeting. We want to welcome all of our visitors. I know we have a couple that asked to come in, and I seen like a couple of them in the room, so I think we've got some visitors here. We welcome all of our visitors. We meet once a month, and if you want to be a member of our group, you can send a request to our email up here. Let me find it. There it is. If you send a request there and say, hey, I'd like to be a member, I think right now it's the last quarter of the month, so our membership is $20, and I believe that's going to include next year, right, Steve? Is that how we should do this?
That's how we did. That's the way we discussed it.
So now it's $20 to join a new member, and then that includes all of 2021. So we won't be asking you to repay your dues in 3 months here, or 4 months when it gets to be January. So yeah, it's $20 to join new members. We do have some I don't think any more this year, but next year we're lining up some demonstrations that will be for members only. So you'll want to join by then, when we get these going, and we will announce those when we have them booked. So that's some of the things that we have going for us. let's see. I'm moving on down the list here on my business, old business, the New City Kids auction. I believe we're scrapping that, right, Tom? Yeah, he's shaking his head. Yes, that's been scrapped. They're too tied up with other things, so that's not going to be a go. Moving down, I just want to run through some of the demonstrations that we have set up here. This month is Tom Sampson. He's in the room. He's going to be doing some sandblasting, texturing, and stuff like that. Next month, we're going to do a demonstration, and it's going to be on Christmas gifts. And we sure would like some people of our members here to say, hey, I have a Christmas gift that I want to talk about. You don't have to actually do a demonstration. I mean, if you can do a quick 10-minute demonstration of making this your whatever the Christmas gift is you have, 10 or 15 minutes, then get with us and we'll work something out. But if you can if you have it and you can just show it and then explain how you made it, that would be great. You know, that's what we're looking for. So any members in the room, if you have something that's a great Christmas gift that's easy to turn, that you'll be doing for Christmas this year, please let me know. Send me an email, and let us know that you have something you'd like to talk about. It that'll be at the next month or October meeting. November we have Phil Irons from the UK lined up. Don't know exactly what he's doing yet, but I think it's going to be some sort of embellishing. December we have Jeff Grill. Jeff, are you still on for September?
For December? Thank you.
I'm sorry, December, not September. Yeah, for December. You're on for December, Jeff?
Nope, I can do that.
Okay, good. We have you down. So, and then after that, we'll be into January, and that's when we're trying to set up some professionals to kick off our year with some top-notch professional turnings.
We do have a couple booked, Doug.
Do we? Hang on.
Yeah.
Where are you at, John? Can I bring you on here, John?
Yeah.
Who do we have?
Sure. In February, we have Art Leedsman. And in June, we have Cindy Drosta.
Okay.
They're booked right now.
February is Art. What's Art's last name?
Leedsman.
Does he do the
He does he uses 3 sections to turn object, and then he removes the middle one to make oblong as one of his demonstrations.
Okay. Yeah, I think Ron and I were just talking about this guy yesterday.
He's good.
Yeah, and Tom too has told me about him. So, all right, good. That'll be something to be looking for in February. Great. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff lined up, and we're working into next year already. And if you are a member and you have Wi-Fi in your shop and you would like to do a demonstration, you let me know, and we can work with you, fill you into some of our gaps here, and have you do a demonstration. We have all the equipment. Tom's using it today. He might show a quick review of what we have there when we get to do his demonstration. It's pretty easy to work with. I set it up with Tom, the other day, Thursday. It took me an hour, and by then he was pretty acclimated with using it. It's very simple to use. So we would be happy to come and set this up in your shop if you have Wi-Fi, or not Wi-Fi, but an internet where we can, plug in a cable. We have a 300-foot cable, and we'd love to get you on the list of doing demonstrations if you're capable of doing a demonstration that way also. So let me know if you have the need or want to do that, because we sure would love to have you on. We'd love to fill up our spots. People probably don't want to see me doing a demonstration every other month, so the more we have other people doing them, the less I have to. See, Bruce is shaking his head. He don't want to see me every other month. It's too much. Too much Doug. Too much Doug. Let's see, moving on. Yeah.
That's Jim Rosen.
Hi, Jim.
Yeah, how do we can't pay anymore. We used to pay at the jam, our dues and that. And we need an address or something. I mean, we can't pay on the website, or maybe we can. I don't know.
Yeah, we're as a matter of fact that's coming up right here next on our things to talk about. I'm going to get Ken Blaine in to talk about our supplies. We've worked out something with supplies. Ken, are you in the room?
I'm here.
There you are. You have the floor. Tell us about
Have
what
the
we're doing
floor.
with supplies.
Well, since we've had some requests of people wanting to still purchase supplies, and we have a fair amount of stuff left since we've met last. So we've been talking for a while here on a good, safe way to potentially sell the supplies. And this is kind of what we come up with. And this is kind of experimental. So bear with us. But right now, Doug has set up on our Square account a web page that we can purchase the supplies that we have in stock. So we went through, we did a complete inventory, put in the numbers. Steve, when is the email going to go out?
As soon as you guys want to send
Okay.
it.
Okay. So we have composed an email and we'll be sending it out that has an address to our Square sales site, basically. Now, also, it was just asked about paying our dues. We've put tabs on that site to go ahead and pay our dues. And then all the supplies that we have available are also listed there, from the shirts, the hats, the CA, and whatnot. So what we've kind of come up with is we'll let you purchase supplies using the website. Everything has to be prepaid. And what we'll do is now next Saturday, 1 week after our meeting, we will set up a distribution at the Jam. This is going to be from 9 o'clock to 10:30 only. Everything has to be pre-ordered. There will be no sales at the Jam. And then, we're going to ask the typical stuff that this is not to be a meeting, not to congregate, just come get your supplies and go. I do need to have all the orders placed by Wednesday. It's going to take some
it's a
time.
different guy.
I'm sorry?
I think it was, hang on. I'm going to mute everybody and then turn your mic back on, Ken. Okay, go ahead, Ken. You're good.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I on? Okay. So, like I said, we're going to have everything paid for in advance, picked up at the Jam. Now, a couple things that I'm not 100% sure of, so please, and it's listed in the email, there may be an email sent back to you with a pickup date on it. Ignore that. The only pickup is going to be the week after our meeting from 9 to 10:30. Now, when you do come, we're going to ask for wear a mask, full coverage, nose, mouth. We don't want to make it a social event. Just come get your stuff and go. So, like I said, I'm going to have the orders placed by Wednesday to give me enough time to get down there and get everything bagged up. So everything, when you get there, it's going to be a simple pickup. We should have everything all ready to go. You come and get your stuff, and that's it. So I'm sure there's going to be some questions. I can answer some general ones right now. Otherwise, you can contact me and we'll go through it with you. Like I said, the email will go out sometime soon, and with the link to get to the site.
And make a note, and this is a members only.
Yes.
If you're not on our paid members list, we are not going to fulfill your order. We will cancel it and refund your credit card. So yeah, the email is only going to get sent out to our members, our paid members only. So this isn't a public site. Don't share this with your friends and say, hey, you can go here and buy stuff. It's strictly members only purchasing. Correct?
And also, like I said, this is kind of an experiment. So we are going to sell what we have on hand. Right now, we're not going to reorder. If it goes smoothly, everybody wants to continue it. Once we've depleted what we have now, we will look at either making few adjustments if we need to, and then go ahead and restock in, or just see how it goes, how many people use it, that type of stuff. Okay.
Hey, thanks, Ken. Any questions on that with anybody? Let's see. I got a message from Dave Curley. What do you have there, Dave? I can't read the whole message. It's
Well, somebody asked me if they could send a check, and I just gave them my address, make it out to the Grand River Woodturners Guild, and send it to me. And do that if they don't like the.
Yeah, that won't work. That won't work with our website. You have to pay for it on the website with a credit card.
No. Hold on. Was it about? I think. Well, they didn't specify, so I am talking about dues. So
yeah, with dues,
we'll
we will
clarify
still,
that.
with dues, we will still accept checks. Also, the dues will be on this same website. You can go in there and pay your dues. Right now, if you pay your dues, it's $25. We always have discounted dues in the month of December for $20. So if you want to pay the extra $5, that's a great thing. We're not turning away money. We can use all the money we can get right now. We have depleted our sales account by about $4,000 since we started this pandemic. So, we will take any extra money, but if you wait until December, your dues will only be $20 for 1 month. We have $20 dues. Also on the website, we do have a donation. If you want to make a donation to us, we will take your donation. It's on there. You can select, 10, 20, 30, or whatever you want to make a donation. We'll take that too. So yeah, that'll be sending out today. As soon as we end this meeting, I believe that Steve will be sending that out, and you'll get the website. You can go there and check it out and purchase whatever supplies you'd like. A treasury report. I see that it just popped up from Ron. What is our current balance, Dave?
Well, you're putting me on the spot. I sent you the.
Did you send me for this month? I have 9,500.
Yeah, well, I did. I generally. That's a little high,
I think that's last month.
In our group, in our meetings for the officers, I usually send it, and then that day, and then or include it in our chat. So I'm sorry. I can do it again, or I can post it when I find it real.
I have from a month ago, it was 95.87. It actually went up last month, but I don't think this included some outstanding bills that we had, but it's somewhere in the low 9,000s. So in that area. Yeah.
I'll find it and put it in the chat. You can see it.
Okay. So if you want to be a member now, I saw a chat come through there. I don't know if anybody answered that. There's in the chat there, Dave put in there that you can send a check for him for, okay. Yeah. So hopefully, Ruby, you got that. I seen that you asked the question. I know she's a visitor who we just got on this morning and through Facebook. So you can send Dave a check for $20. And they'll get you on our list.
Well, Ron just commented. Yeah. Ron just commented that being from Canada, and I should have noticed that when she spelled check differently than we do. That it might be difficult. So, but
otherwise, Ruby, I can send you, if you send me an email at this site, or I can send you a link. I got your email. I already got your email. I can send you a link that you can do it with a credit card. So I will send that this afternoon, and then you can let us know how you want to pay for that. So we'll get you. I have a standard letter I send out that gives you options on how to pay your dues. So I will get that sent out. For some reason my laptop keeps shutting off here. So do we have any other new business that that I've missed, new or old business that we need to talk about? Or have we gotten everything? Okay. Then I'm going to move into show and tell. That's next on our list. But But first, I want to give away something. Last month, I waited until the end to give away all of our free giveaways. We do have some gift certificates that we hand out at every meeting. And I want to start out right now by giving away a one of our giveaways. Let me see if I can get that found here and working. Here we go. It's the wheel of Woodturners. We're going to give away, before show and tell, we're going to give away a gift certificate for AZ Carbide. Ron is a member here of our group. He's in the room. He is the owner of AZ Carbide, and they have all your carbide needs. So we're going to start out by giving away a $10 gift certificate to AZ Carbide. So let me spin the wheel here and see if we can find somebody in the room who can do this. Aaron Day. Aaron, you're in the room, right?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So let me get my back on here. So let's mark that down on my thing here that Aaron Day got the first AZ Carbide gift certificate. And now with that done, I think we can go to show and tell. I have a couple photos that were sent to me, so I'm going to run through those first. If you have show and tell, raise your hand. Not physically raise your hand, but well, I see Ron's got his hand up. I might see you that way. Otherwise, click on the button that says wave hand or raise hand, and we'll see it on the list there, and hopefully we'll find you there and go that route to do some show and tell. I already see one hand up. So yeah, if you go to like the participant screen or the bottom more, there's an icon that says raise hand, and it'll raise your hand on our screen, move you to the top of our list. So let me start out with the show and tell that I have got sent to me. This is from Ross Leafers. Ross, I think you're in the room. You want to talk about this? You'll have to unmute your mic.
I am.
All right.
I am. These are some measuring spoons and measuring cups that I made as gifts for my daughters-in-law and friends. They're nothing very special, but I've learned a lot from attending the meetings and an awful lot from turning with my brother Terry. And I've come a long way in the last couple of years since I joined, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I just finished this one this morning, just before the meeting.
Hang on, let me get you. Here we go. There, now you're spotlighted. So that one you just did. So was that a kit from like Penn State or?
Yeah, they're kits from Penn State Industries. Like I said, they're nothing special, nothing complicated like the most of you guys do. But for me, it's a learning curve, and I appreciate learning from you guys, and especially learning from my brother Terry. It's been a lot of fun and very enjoyable for me.
Okay. Good. Glad to hear that. You know, that was something Ron and I were talking about yesterday. Most Woodturners were happy. We're happy to we're happy to share what we know. It's not like protected secrets. Anybody, has questions or want to see how we do things. I think almost everybody in this room would say, yeah, I'll show you how I did that. We're not protecting our secrets and stuff. So, okay, let's see. My next.
I started out with.
Go ahead.
I started out wood turning when I was quite young, and I was turning on a lathe that's as old as me. And I finally had to give that to my youngest son, and my brother Terry helped me buy a 2009 model jet lathe, and I'm having tremendous fun with it.
Okay.
I'm just learning more every day. It's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Great. Let's see. Next up, I've got a bowl here that picture was sent to me by Jim Jakash. He's not in the room. And he did like an inlay there. And the tree, I read the email earlier and I don't remember now what it said, but it was a 150-year-old tree. I don't remember what kind it was. Do you remember, Steve? You forwarded me the email. I'll put you on the spot, Steve. but um, but he also embedded around the edge of this a twisted copper wire. And I've done that before. You twist the wire up evenly, and then you cut a little groove in the lip of your bowl, and then you hammer it in there so it's evenly all around, and then fill it with an inlay, and then you turn it off. With a sharp bowl gouge, and it'll slice right through that copper and leave that banding on there. So it's kind of it's a cool little process. I think he's got another picture here. Let me see if I can get to the next picture. There's the other picture of it. So yeah, so that's from Jim Jakash. So now let's move on down to the room here to whoever's got the next person up would be Steve Payne. Let me spotlight you, Steve. Steve, you're on. What you got?
I don't see me there. Do you? Okay.
Are you there? Or do you see me? Hopefully you don't see me.
I see you.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. This is walnut and bamboo. Just a thin platter. I put glued up a glue block there on the back end, and when I made the foot, I decided to leave some of it there, kind of add a little bit of interesting touch to it. So,
nice.
That's it.
Okay. Let's see. Next down the list, let me lower Steve's hands, and we've got Aaron next. Aaron, you're on.
All right. So my neighbor took down a mulberry tree, and I don't know if you've turned mulberry before, but it's got a really cool yellow color to it for about 8 months to a year or so, and then it starts turning a chestnut color. But did a live edge bowl with that. Kind of a fun project to do last weekend.
Very nice. Nice.
Do you find that color fades after the finish is on?
Yeah, I did a woman in town had a mulberry tree I turned a few years ago, and she said it took the better part of a year before it really started going to the chestnut color. But it's got kind of almost like a little bit of an iridescence to it also, which is kind of a cool effect. But I don't know if that goes away. I didn't go back to her place to look at the final results. This one will just be my neighbor down the road, so I'll be able to look at it in a year or so and see if it still has that or not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people mistake it for Osage orange.
Early on, it looks a lot like it, but over time, it goes to that chestnut color.
Okay. All right. Next up, I have Rick Havens. Rick Havens, you are in the room. You're on the stage.
This is a multi-axis turning I did, and I left the back natural, and right now I've got dowels on here. I'm trying to figure out what to do for some sort of stand, and had some ideas from Ron Campbell on doing the legs for it. I'm trying to get that done. And I'm going to try to share my screen here. I haven't done that very often to show a couple of the in-process photos. If I can find the right. Can you see this?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
It's trying to.
I'm trying to.
Are you using a computer or
iPad?
Your iPad? I don't know how to do it on iPad.
So I guess go to someone else. I can't figure out how to get it on here. So
before we go to someone else, how did you chuck that sucker up to do the multi-axis turning?
Well, that's what I was hoping to try to show on my photos. I basically leveled it, laid it on the burl side and had the flat top leveled and used wedges on a piece of plywood, on a square piece of plywood, and used 2x4 wedges. And those wedges I screwed to the 2x4 and then hot glued the burl to the wedges and used a lot of hot glue. And then on my lathe, I have a big 20-inch diameter plywood faceplate. And I could screw that square piece of plywood with the burl mount to it anywhere on there to adjust for the different bowl sections. And then I also, to keep the burl from flying off, I had some 1-inch wide nylon strapping that I would wrap over the top of it and then screw down to the plywood just to help keep it as another safety measure in place.
Cool. What kind of wood was that? What kind of burl?
Mallee burl from Australia.
Okay. Do you have the rest of the burl, or is it just the cap?
I just had cap. A friend of mine that I met, she's originally from Elkhart but lives in Australia, and she's a teacher over there. But she comes back to Elkhart every summer to visit her parents who still live here. And she's a turner. She got into turning in Australia when she retired, and she brought back a bunch of burls that I bought off of her, burl caps that I bought off of her.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. Let's see. Moving on to our next person is Robert Elliott. Let me spotlight your video. There you are. What do you got for us, Robert?
Well, I have to give Ron Campbell a credit for this. It was a piece of firewood that just happened to be outside, and I decided to see what I could do out of it because it looked nice. And the teardrop, I really like. I put negative rake on one as suggested, and unfortunately, the only thing that went through the bottom are some wormholes. Other than that, it is 1/8 of an inch and less in some places. And I don't know what it is other than reclaimed firewood.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Next on the list is Ted Heisinger. Ted, are you there? What do you got for us, Ted?
I have a bowl here that was made out of apple, the root ball, and there's a number of cracks in it.
Fifth element.
Yeah, there you go. But that was my first root ball, and I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it. The grain goes every which way, so I think it's hard to turn.
Okay.
I used a tongue oil finish and dribbled some wax on it. So yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Let's see. Next up, I have John Singleton. What do you got, John? No mic. Turn your mic on.
I have a cherry burl here that I turned a piece out of, and come out pretty nice. It's good size, and it's kind of complicated because there's so many pieces that were barely on. It was like this piece up here. I had to be very careful with some of these pieces because they were really fragile. But it come out nice.
Yeah, looks
That's
good.
it.
Lacquer finish on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Next up, I got Ron Campbell. What do you got for us, Ron? No mic. Turn your mic on.
I finished a piece this week, and let me bring it up here. There it is. A piece of madrone. it started out, Doug and I yesterday measured some madrone, the amount of moisture in it. It's right at 45%. This piece is about 12 inches at the longest and 9 inches in width. And you can see where it pushed itself out and kind of collapsed the sides in. This pushed out. It's always the shorter side that seems to move inward. And you can see the burl here. There's straight grain in the bottom. And I did bead the thing. These beads, and I've got a video and it shows the beads. They kind of run uphill here. And again, that's the movement of the piece. It started out at 30 pounds and right now it's in a gallery in Fremont. And it's a show that I'm in, John Marquardt's in, and Daryl DeRuyter's in. I took it up there this week. Before I took it up, I weighed it. It went from 30 pounds to 14 ounces. Has a shellac finish on it. This stuff is so much fun to turn. And when you look at something like this, it starts at 30 pounds and it ends up at 15 ounces. That's a tremendous amount of weight loss. And it's on the floor in my shop. And that's why I requested to see who could help me core one of these. So Doug and I cored one that's almost this big. Yesterday, I think we had 5 live edge bowls. And then we did about 4 or 5 more that are just natural. They're not natural, they're just a curved bowl. And none of those will be bowls when I'm done with them next week. That was a 37-pound burl when I started with it.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
I didn't understand that. None of them will be bowls, or all of them will be bowls?
The natural edge will be bowls. The ones that are just like a regular bowl, they're very shallow. I'm going to try and manipulate this wood. I'll put it in the microwave. As it starts to move, I'm going to encourage it to move that direction. In other words, it's going to get rubber bands on it. And I'm going to try and force them. I've forced some to roll all the way over. And that's what I hope to do with these, okay? And then the next question is, do I bleach or do I leave it natural color? Same with the ones I've cored.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Ron. Let's see.
You guys do a video on the coring?
Yes, we did. We did do a video on that. Can somebody Bruce? Can you spotlight my video? I can't do it. Oh, hang on. We got another. Well, we'll get him in a second. Bruce, can you spotlight my video? Thank you. We did record that yesterday, coring that. Like Ron said, I think we got like nine or 10 bowls out of it. And he left one for me that I'm going to finish up. But then when he has a chance to finish his and me have a chance to finish mine, we're going to make a demonstration out of that. Probably, I'm guessing right now our next opening is January. So you think we'll be ready for this in January there, Ron?
Yeah, Doug, I'll be ready next week, buddy.
Okay.
These things with that kind of moisture, you need to turn immediately. You will get a better response. And you did put yours in water, didn't you, Doug?
Yeah, it's in a bucket of water that turned a funny color. The water did. It's like, it's like tea or something. Yeah, I've never worked with this stuff before, but it's pretty interesting. So that'll be, write this down, John and Joe, that we'll make this our coring with Ron, our January demonstration.
We have Pete Vandermeer right now booked for January.
I think that was just penciled in, and Pete was a little iffy on doing something in the wintertime because his shop is not heated. So I think Pete will probably be fine if we bump him to a warmer month. I don't know if Pete's in the room. Pete, are you here?
I didn't see him in the room, Doug.
I haven't seen him in the room.
Oh, no, wait. Yeah, okay.
And I think
that was wrong. We had you booked for January anyway.
Okay.
Sorry
There
about
you
that.
go. It's perfect.
March.
Okay, so we'll make the January would be coring with Ron and Doug, like a little game show that we do once in a while. Another thing that that wood is really really wet, and I tested it with my moisture meter, and I told Ron I bet it comes in at 45. Well, I knew it was going to come in at 45 because it never registers more than 45 or 46 or something like that. Even though the wood is completely soaked, for some reason, it never measures more than 40, 45, 48% moisture. Apparently, it just can't hold any more than that. It was solid wet. I mean, the water was coming out of it. So, all right, John, go ahead.
Our first core was only about 3 inches wide. Okay. When I threw it in a bucket of water, it was so heavy, it sank. This wood will not float. That's how wet it is.
Okay. Yeah, mine too. It went to the bottom of the bucket. John Behrens, you had your hand up. I don't know if I accidentally cleared you off. Say something so I can find you.
Yeah, I'm on. You hear me?
There you are. I got you. You got the floor. What do you got?
I was just curious, Ron. You said what the burl weighed. What did it weigh after you turned it? Did you weigh it before it dried? You said it was down to 15 ounces, or was that the wet weight before it completely dried?
I did weigh it, John. I think it was about 1.5 pounds, almost 2 pounds. So it still had that much moisture in it. It went into the microwave. When it came out of the microwave after a couple hours playing with it, it was right at 1 pound. And then over days, it lost only another ounce or 2. It's about a week-long process, because you don't want any cracks in it. And I'm afraid to do like Greg. Greg would pop something in there like that, and he'll put it in the microwave on high for 2 minutes. It's too easy to crack, and this is too expensive of a wood. So I'm pretty patient with it, John. I have all the records of every piece I've ever made, what it weighed when I brought it into the house, and I weigh it daily to see the decrease in the weight.
Okay. Do we have anybody else that has show and tell?
Doug, yeah, I got one.
Okay, hang on.
I do.
I need a name. Is this Dietrich? Dewey?
Dewey.
All right, hang on, Dewey. Let me spotlight you. There, you're on. What do you got, Dewey?
What I have is that the problem of putting a finial on objects just to enhance their beauty has always intrigued me. And so I see it done on, obviously, bowls of different size and different shapes, and it's always resting on the very top very nicely. So I decided, and just to be arbitrary, the last couple of bowls that I made, I put the finial on the bottom, so to speak, and it looks like this. It's in the bottom of this bowl, and I make the bowl, create the centerpiece, and then put this Coca-Cola wood finial on top, and it kind of is cool. I always think it's fun. I had another one that I did, but was similar in its look, but that's the result. So it's finials on the bottom instead of on the top. So, and this is maple, this is Coca-Cola, and that's the end product. It's just to be different, but something that I did now for, I don't know what you call it, just to be arbitrary or whatever, but then I put I don't know
the flutes on the bowl, how did you do that? Is that carved, or you have a router system, or how
no, those are all carved. I don't have a
okay. And the same, and of course your finial, you did some carving on that too to get that twist.
Yes.
Very nice. Yeah, I like it. It
so
looks
that's
like a crown.
that's my
It's like a crown. If you would have dished it a little bit, you could have wore it like a crown.
Well, that may be something coming next time.
Yeah.
I had my wife had an earring that had a pearl in it, one of these big artificial pearls. And on my other bowl, I had that cutting up the middle inside the finial. So it was rather elaborate. Had the pearl with a little stem, finial, and then another elaborate bowl. So anyway, you can get carried away with anything. And I got carried away with the finials on the bottom.
All right. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Did we have somebody else that has a show and tell?
Doug, it's Bruce. I've got one.
Okay. Trying to find you here, Bruce. Say something again so your mic pops up on my screen. There you
How
are.
are you?
I see you now. All right, you're on. What do you got, Bruce?
This was a piece of rough sawn cherry. It was 2 inches thick and about 7 inches wide. I was doing a project for somebody on this board or using this board, and this was a drop, so a leftover piece. And I was just pretty happy with it. It's cherry, and the finial is podunk.
Dunk.
It's upside down. So I was pretty happy with it.
Nice. Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah. I've got a piece.
Is this Jeff?
Yeah. Yeah, there was
There you go.
several years ago, I did a piece of madrone that was I thought I would show as I turned it was since Ron had some madrone and we had a multi-axis. This was a piece that I did out of a square piece of madrone. It's about 10 by 10 by about 4, and turned it on four axis. But this was dry madrone, so it didn't move afterwards, and turned each one of the bowls out, and then had to carve the back away, and it was a bit of a challenge. Let's see. Yeah, it was a couple years ago, 2009. I thought I'd bring it up just because it was multi-axis and it was madrone.
All right. Cool.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Jeff, up and around and doing well after your operation a couple months ago.
Yep.
Month ago.
Yeah, 6 weeks. Yep.
Okay.
Good. Thanks.
Let's see. I also have a show and tell that I just remembered that I made. I didn't have a chance to get a picture of this yet. I haven't even finished the bottom, but after our demonstration last month that Jeff Gallegos did, and he had the embellishing and had done some carving, I decided I would give that a shot. And so this is a piece of cherry. As a matter of fact, this cherry, when I found this log, I've been watching this, it's been growing around the corner from me about a mile away, and the tree finally fell, but the tree was completely twisted from top to bottom, trunk, all the branches, every piece of it was twisted. And it finally fell. It was pretty rotted and fell over. And I asked the guy if I could have a piece. And the twist was, you can see it here. I mean, hang on, which way is it going? This way. Anyways, that twisting was only in the sapwood. I couldn't figure that out. When I went through it, underneath it, it was just regular, looked just like cherry. But so I turned away most of the twist. I saved just a couple little pieces of it there. And then, so then I decided I would embellish it because I have a lot of cherry vases already and wanted to do something different with it. So this was from our demonstration last month with Greg. He talked about doing this. So there's my demonstration.
Did you get that down to your usual 1/8 inch thick?
This is, I don't think it's an 1/8 inch. It's probably closer to 3/16 maybe. I think it's less than 1/4, but yeah. You want me to go and cut it in half on the bandsaw and we'll see how thick it is?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, probably not with this one.
Doug,
Yeah.
question, how did you determine the design on the outside? Was that
The layout I determined by the actual grain of the wood. I actually followed the grain of the wood going around this centerpiece here.
Right.
And then the wormy part, I just did that because I'd seen Greg do a demo on that. Well, he did it for our group. And I thought, well, that was really cool. I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
So I decided to do that worm look in it. It was pretty easy to do. I have a Fordham, so I just sat down and
Yep.
I mean, I only took about a half hour to do that. So it's
great?
Yeah. So,
Was that a 2 cocktail application there when you did that?
nope, just one. So
your usual lacquer, I assume.
Of course, yeah, lacquer. I always lacquer everything. I don't know why. My wife loves it. So you can see this one's really shiny. It really came out nice because we've had such cool weather. The humidity is so low. Right now is the perfect time to lacquer something. It just goes on great. I'll do that when I'm making a lot of pieces. I'll save them up, and then wait for the right day to lacquer when it looks like the humidity is a little lower. So a lot of times I'll have 3 or 4 pieces there waiting for the weather. And then our day that I haven't opened my shop doors and the inside is still relatively dry, from being in the house. So, but lately the weather is just perfect for lacquering. You can really get some beautiful lacquer down. I think this was 3 or 4 coats of lacquer. So, and then only 1 coat of lacquer went on the black part. So it stayed, I completely finished the whole thing with 3 or 4 coats of lacquer. And then I cut this out and then just gave it 1 more shot after I had that done. So the black came out and I dyed that black. So that came out kind of flat and the rest is really shiny.
Is your lacquer semi-gloss?
This was high gloss. I have some semi-gloss too that I use sometimes, especially if I do a wall hanging. I do that with a semi-gloss because big old wall hanging doesn't look good shiny, So, but right now I have high gloss loaded up. So once I load up one on my gun, everything's glossy until that one's done, and then I'll decide what to put in my gun next.
Very good.
What was your dye? Black dye.
What's that?
What was the black dye?
I use transit. I use that transit dyes, and what I do is I have these little squirt tubes you can get from like the hobby stores, and I'll fill that up with DNA, and then I put drops of the transit dye in there until it looks the right color, and then I squirt that mixture of DNA and dye onto a rag and wipe it on to where I want it. Use a rag or maybe a Q-tip if I'm trying to get it into just a little area, and then dye it that way. So that's kind of my dyeing process. That's how I died. You can put that on my tombstone. That's how he died. Any more show and tell?
Is that it? Such nice defined lines on there, Doug, where you died to versus.
Well, I had already lacquered all this. I completely lacquered everything, and then I cut away to the wood. So my dye actually went onto some of this area, but I just steel wooled it off when I was done. It didn't stick because I already had like 4 coats of lacquer under there. So the dye didn't stick to where I didn't want it. That's kind of how I do. If there's a crack, like this had a crack in it, I think. I don't repair that crack, unless I think the vessel is going to come apart. So I don't even see the crack now. Oh, the crack's at the bottom here. I don't repair those cracks until I have all my lacquer on. That way I don't have to worry about my CA glue bleeding into the rest of the wood where I don't want it. So I'll completely finish everything with lacquer, and then I'll go in after I have 1 coat of lacquer on. I'll go and fill those cracks with CA glue, and then sand that off, and then continue on with the rest of my lacquer. And that way the CA doesn't bleed into the rest of the wood grain, and otherwise you get a stain around those cracks if you just do it right into the wood. You can also use that fixed it spray. I use that sometimes too to keep the CA from gluing, but a lot of times I'll just go all the way to my first coat of lacquer, and then I'll go back and seal it with CA, and then it keeps it, the lacquer really seals it, keeps it from not going where I don't want it. So,
Doug, one thing that some do after they have lacquered it and have gotten a pretty good finish, a beautiful finish, they have used McGuire's car wax, a liquid, and then buff it, and no silicone. It just is a very nice gloss finish as well, which gives it a little more glow.
yeah. I've done that too with wax. I actually use car wax because
Yes.
I think it's long lasting. But a lot of my stuff, like with the lacquer, I just try to just get it looking perfect, and I stop as soon as it looks good. I stop lacquering, and then typically it won't lose that shine. Car wax might dull a little bit after a couple of years, and you might feel like you got to give it another coat. So, but yeah.
Buff.
Doug,
Yeah.
the rest of the information on Jim Jacob's piece was it's a 150-year-old cedar from a pickle vat.
Okay.
And the inlay was the copper wire, as you mentioned, in turquoise.
Okay, and that was turquoise.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Jim Jakash. Having a hard time getting him to come to one of our meetings, so I don't know. He does. If somebody sees him, gotta tell him that we miss him. We need him at this meeting. If you see Jim Jakash out and about, tell him to log into our meeting. He
says he's at a car show today.
I know he's always got something going on.
Does he have an antique car of some sort? Or
apparently, I don't know. I haven't. I have never been to his house to see what's in the garage. I should probably swing by sometime, check out his shop and his garage. I'm in the cars. If you got a cool car, I want to see it. Okay. Anybody else got anything on the show and tell? All right. I think that's
a little one, Doug.
Okay. Is
Real
that
quick. John Barron.
Yeah, hang on. I'm trying to find you. Say something again, John, so your microphone pops up.
John Barron.
Oh, there you are. Way up there. You got your hand up.
Yeah.
All right. You're on.
This is just, I'm concerned a little bit if you can see this. My lighting's so terrible. Let me get an idea of the dimension.
Oh, yeah.
I had a pretty large burl, but there were sections of it that scared the heck out of me. And I thought, well, I'll just cut it up and make smaller pieces out of it. You can see my hand here. Turned out pretty good. A little bit of negative space there where I get the light to come through. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
And then signing it, of course, is a little bit challenging when they're this small, because I like to put descriptions and things in there. I can't even focus on it. But anyway, it's so I got several pieces of this material now that all in about the same size blocks of wood. I don't know what the height is, but a lot of nice color in there. Some chatoyance on this side. I think you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not totally happy with the shape, but I really love this piece of wood. So it's about a 1/16 of an inch thickness on the walls, maybe a fat 1/16.
Nice.
That's it.
All right. Very nice. Okay. Anybody else got show and tell for us?
I don't have show and tell for us this week, but I'll be up in Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo area later this week on business. I'd love to meet with some of you guys in the area there if possible for a beer and a dinner if you're available.
Okay. So that's Jay Penfield. If you are available later this week, get a hold of Jay and let him know, and then you can.
Possibly Tuesday, Wednesday. Not sure about Thursday.
Okay. All right. Anything else before we go into our demonstration? No, nobody else has any news, anything on. All right. So at this point, I think we're going to cut to Tom Sampson, and he's going to be doing a demonstration on on sandblasting. As soon as I can find Tom in the room, say something, Tom, so I can find you. Are you there, Tom?
He went AWOL.
Yeah.
I see him there. He's, but he must not, he's got his mic muted.
Yeah, well, there should be a Grand River Woodturners laptop. I don't see that in the room here. What happened?
I see it.
There it is, Grand River Woodturner. Let's spot. Well, hang on, not do that. Let's start video. I actually stopped your video, Tom. So let's shoot. And the Tom, are you there?
I'm here.
I
You are
think
muted.
I actually shut off your video on the Zoom on the Grand River laptop. You're gonna have to go to the Zoom and start your video on the bottom left corner there. Start
Oh,
video.
okay.
Yeah, and then where are you? I still don't see you coming up here.
Pretty much at the top now.
Is he at the top? Can you highlight him? Spotlight him for me, please.
How's that? Can you hear me?
There you go. I can hear you.
Can you hear?
We don't have your video yet, I don't think.
Hey, can we take a break while I I forgot to power up my tank a little bit, so it'll be loud.
Okay. Hey, let's take a 2-minute break while this tank powers up. Everybody can use the restroom, get yourself a donut and a cup of coffee, and then we will start this demonstration, okay?
Hey, Tom, if you can, why don't you turn your camera on so we can spotlight you? We can't spotlight till the camera's on.
Yeah, I actually turned your video off, Tom, on the Grand River laptop.
Nice air compressor.
Okay.
I can ask a question while we're waiting for that to come up. I just inherited some chestnut from my neighbor and wondering if anybody has experience on turning it and how it's going to work out for me. A lot of intense grain variations in it so far, looking at the log end.
I have done some chestnut recently, and it is a pleasure to turn. It just cuts like butter.
Excellent.
I would second that. It's really, really nice to work with. And once you put a finish on it, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be beautiful once I get it cut.
So, Tom, let me know when you're there, Tom Sampson, when you're back. Are you? Sounds like your compressor shut off.
Doug, I muted his mic so we didn't have to.
Oh, okay. All right, good idea. So hopefully he'll pop up here when.
Might be a good time for a giveaway, Doug.
Oh yeah, let me do that. That's a good idea. Well, that's why we have you on the leadership board there, John. Let's do a giveaway. I'll do. Let's do a craft supplies. We have I think some $10 craft supplies gift certificates. So let's run for a $10 craft supplies. Here we go. Tom Rumsey, I seen you in the room earlier. Are you still with us, Tom? I'm trying to find Tom Rumsey. I seen him. He did come into the room at one point in time. There he is. Tom, you must be here. I see you in the room. You just won a $10 craft supplies gift certificate. You write that down. I hear that compressor's still going, huh?
Yeah, I was just checking.
Yeah. So if anybody else has anything we want to talk about real quick here, I'm anxious to turn some Madrone this afternoon. Hey, Larry Truss, you got your hand up there, Larry. Unmute your mic and I'll put you on the spotlight here. Larry, you need to unmute your mic. I can't hear you, Larry. Your mic's been muted.
Just a minute.
You're on. I can hear you.
Okay. That stave box deal. Remember when we had that demonstration?
Which one?
Pardon?
Which demo?
The stave box demo. Yeah,
Stave. Oh, yeah, the box staves. Yeah, with Bruce Dannenhauer. Yes.
Been working on one, and that man has worked with me through emails a lot, and it's coming out real good.
Okay, cool.
I charge extra for that.
All right.
Yeah, I've got the stuff to make the staves. I just haven't not gotten around to making the staves yet. So I got to get my router table set up. I bought the guide rollers. They had them on sale at Woodcraft a couple months ago, and I just haven't gotten around to getting them set up with a track and all that. You know, Bruce and we talked about that. And,
you want help with that, let me know.
Okay.
On that same vein, Bruce, you talked about a negative rake scraper inside that, and you had angles for the two angles meeting. Do you remember what those were off the top of your head?
Now this is according to Stuart Batty. He says your inclusive angle should not exceed 60 degrees.
60 degrees.
So I work my negative rake scraper. I use an inclusive angle of 50 degrees, which means I grind, my platform is set at 25 degrees so that I grind each side at 25 degrees.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
that seems to work really well.
Are there any plans to pick up boxes from this area that are already made? I'm still sitting on a couple of them I did early or late last winter. Get them down to you, Bruce, or to the hospital.
Since the COVID thing happened, I've burned about two tanks of gas since the middle of March. So I'm not going many places. But if you interact with Doug at all, if you get them to Doug's place, that's a lot closer for me. I don't know if you do or not.
Are you delivering them to the hospital still? Have they opened that back up, or you're still just sitting on them?
It's been about a month now that I delivered 30 to them.
Okay.
They actually ran out and decided to take a risk on me bringing bugs in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, until we're bringing.
I'd be willing to. I was going to say I'd be willing to do. I kind of have business in Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. One of my kids recently got a house in Kalamazoo, so I'm back and forth between both cities quite a bit, or can be. I have an excuse to get down there, so if you want, I could also do that.
You can get a hold of Dave Curley. Yeah, you can. He can deliver those down to Bruce. I don't know if there's a high demand for it right now, though, if they're not accepting them at the hospital. But
I can wait if they don't need them. It just was, we're on that topic, so I was just asking the question.
Yeah. Right now I have about 25 in stock for the next delivery. So we're pretty good. in terms of having some ready for the hospital, so you don't need to do special running around to get them down here.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Tom Sampson, I hear you. You need to turn on your video on the for the Zoom room. Oh, your Zoom on the thing. Click on Start Video on the bottom left. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yeah, I can hear you. So I have the external on. What else am I have to do here?
In the Zoom room, I accidentally turned off your video, I think. You know, you in the
Oh,
actual
the Zoom room,
Zoom,
okay.
go into Zoom, you got the mic and the video on the bottom left corner.
Gotcha.
Start the video.
Let me,
There
we
you go.
go.
All right, yeah.
Yay!
All right, now you're on. Let me spotlight you, or somebody, if somebody could spotlight him.
I got him, Doug.
Okay, thank you. All right, you've got the floor there, Tom. Everybody, let's give Tom a big warm welcome.
all right, all hear me and see me good?
Yep. You look
All
look
right.
as good as you ever have. Yeah, beautiful.
Well, thank you. So I am here in Granville at garage for a company I work with. Have set up here they have a little larger compressor than I have at home. So I have equipment set up here. We just a little bit about myself. I'm a geologist by training. So I work for a company that does environmental cleanups and compliance. So, places like a gas station or, manufacturing companies that have issues with releases of chemicals or gasoline, we investigate, delineate and clean those up. So we have equipment that we would use in the field, like compressors and soil vapor extraction systems. So we're injecting air, we're pulling things out. So we have a lot of pipe fittings and things like that here too. So today I'm going to talk about sandblasting, kind of the process I've been incrementally going through to make that happen. Talk about some of the equipment, the processes, cabinets, guns, dust collection, safety, blasting itself. Got the cabinet, and we'll set up a camera, excuse me, to look down into it, and kind of go through the process. And feel free to answer questions. I have these headphones on, so I can hear pretty well, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to start out with some of the work that I do and kind of how I want to embellish with sandblasting. So let me switch cameras here. Okay, I'm not switching now.
Oh,
Let's have the big. Oh, I got the big and small. All right, so kind of warping of wood seems to be of interest to a lot of people now, certainly with the Madrone, which I haven't yet to work with, but I've been playing around with discs, thinly turned discs, which here's an example of red oak. And I call these my Event Horizon series. An event horizon in planetary geology is like in a black hole where there's a plane where nothing can, light cannot escape through. So if that reminds you of maybe was my intent. So again, red oak, turned thin on a pressure plate, just jammed into, cut with a chainsaw first, and then I would jam it onto a plywood disc and then turn it down. And then sequentially maybe holding it with smaller wooden discs so I don't perforate through. When these dry, they do kind of tend to crack in the middle. So, that's kind of one of the reasons I've been putting things in the middle. So here's a hollowed out sphere. And then I've, textured, painted, those kind of things to put these rays on. There we go. And then here's another example of 2 discs. Okay, kind of a Star Wars type looking spaceship, Darth Vader kind of thing, but same kind of concept, 2 discs. I have a hollowed out sphere and then a couple of nails in here to embellish right there. And then, so along those lines, I was playing around with the sandblasting part. Here's a broken piece. See if I can align that. There we go. And so the areas in between here have been sandblasted. Let me zoom in. Oops. Zoom in. So hopefully you can kind of see where the grain has differentially been eroded from the sandblasting. And then the same concept where the other areas are not sandblasted, painted, and or wood burned. So is that coming through?
Yes.
What's the wood, Tom?
This is another slice of red oak. You can kind of see the outer rim is a little bit not rusted, degraded, from rotting. There's some little bit of coloring there from rot. And here this was something I had on a kind of a tower structure, so it snapped at some point. Here's another example, a little bit better of just on a test piece. You can kind of see through the wood there. You can see some light coming through even. And again, this is red oak, a little bit bigger or wider spaced green, if you will. So from a larger tree, whereas the other ones are, you can see the diameter of the tree.
So did you sandblast that from both sides? The one we can see through?
I did. This was just, again, playing around. That maybe shows the light coming through a little better.
Yep.
Okay. Are there other woods? Are there other woods that have that? I know oak does this pretty well. Are there other woods that are similar? Oak does it pretty well because you've got the growth rings, rays.
You have the medullary rays that'll hold it together. If you, so you can, the medullary rays hold it together. They're a little bit stronger. So the softer wood preferentially gets blasted out, and then the harder wood stays, and the medullary rays. So some of you may have seen like Pascal Audet, a French turner. He does very nice, the whole thing is just lace work, which is, some of the inspiration for what I'm doing here, but more of a, doing patterns, if you will.
So on the back side, I have another question. On the back side of that one, did the sandblasting go around the metal, those rays? More of the ray on the back side, you can see the rays better, it looks like.
Yeah, I think
it doesn't blast out those rays.
You're right. This is a little deeper, I think. Right here, it's penetrated. The blasting. I don't know if you can see my hand moving there.
Yeah. Okay.
So Tom, are you gonna talk about how you protected the areas that didn't get blasted, or should it be?
Yes.
No. Okay.
And I did not protect this at all, so it is kind of gradational. Again, this was just kind of a test piece. So there would have been no resist here, which I'll talk about later. So you can do things to protect an edge and get a very sharp edge, which we will do today. So other woods, that the grain differentially erodes when it's blasted. This is Douglas fir, and I don't know if that's coming through, but there's a lot of relief there. Some of these are maybe like right there's a 1/16 of an inch, I think, differentially eroded. So is that coming through?
Yes.
Okay. Whoop, sorry. So I'll tip it on edge. Maybe you can see how deep those valleys are. But yeah, so this is Douglas fir and white pine I've been doing on too. That works pretty well. We'll do some white pine today. So that's kind of an example of, what I'm interested in and what I'm doing. As far as sandblasting itself, it's been very much a investigative process for me. I didn't know anything about it. I initially started, I'm a geologist, and kind of a twofold, a thought I had was, well, I can also clean up fossils with this. You can, put other, different types of media that I'll be talking about, but you could clean up fossils. So that was one thing I was thinking of. And then I was, interested what I could do with sandblasting as far as wood, creative kind of concepts. So I'm just going to give you a scan of what I have here. So bear with me as we figure this out. So in the back is a Harbor Freight blasting cabinet. And we're going to talk about all these in sequence, but I'm just going to give you an overview of what's here. This is a little dust collection cyclone on the left-hand side here, my right. Shop vac down there. Over in the corner, oops, I might have screwed up the focus. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, move back there by the compressor. You might have to walk back there and have it focus on you.
There we go. So we've got a compressor, which is woefully inadequate, and I'll talk about that, which led me then to find an auxiliary tank over here, which this is, since I have access to this type of equipment, this was just sitting around. It's just a big pressure tank, which I added on. So that allows me to build up extra pressure and volume, which is the main consideration here. So pressure tank, and then over here are some smaller type units. This is a pressure pot, and I'll talk about that, and then also just a little spot blaster, that gray thing there. And I might as well, while we're here, I'll just, because it sounds like there's some interest in how this is set up, so I'm going to switch to my laptop. So if you want to highlight my laptop, my home.
Yeah, let me, hang on, I'm trying to find it here.
See if you can find that.
Yeah. Okay, there's your laptop I spotted.
Okay, so just for everybody's interest, this is what the setup looks like. I'm looking at a laptop on a tripod, and then the camera and that's the main camera right up here, and then there's a camera on a boom here, which I'm shining down on a table, and that's where I was showing that artwork, and I have a bunch of stuff set up on the table I'll be putting under there. And then over here, there's a camera hooked up on a boom, and that's what I'm gonna, let's see here. Yeah, right there. So that's gonna be swinging over the cabinet here in a little bit. All right, you can switch me back.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Oh, and there's a, oh, yeah, I can hold it up. There's a little switching pad here. Oops. Yeah, so there's a little switching pad that you can switch the cameras around and zoom in and out. All right. So let's start with kind of different things out there and ask questions. And there might be people that know more than I do, because again, I've just been trial and error on a lot of this stuff. So I'm gonna zoom over on this pressure pot, which is the first thing I got. So this is just a cheap Harbor Freight, what they call a pressure pot. You fill it full of, your media, and then on the back side, sorry about this, a lot of stuff here. So your air line, you would hook up to here, and then the air goes to two locations. It goes to the top of the pot and then pushes down on your media, if you will. And then the other line there goes down to the bottom, and down on the bottom you can adjust the the airflow and the media coming out. Oop, right there. So there's a valve down there, and then one up, a couple on top. So it's kind of finicky from what I found. You would, I used this outside first, and I didn't have, the cabinet at the time. It works, it's a little finicky. If your media gets damp, it'll tend to clog up, and then it's really hard to get stuff out of there. But something you could use outside if you just wanted to give it a shot. Not too big of an investment. Comes with, this little shield you'd put on, because that stuff really comes out of there fast and it bounces all around, and it's kind of stings if you're not geared up for it.
And with that one, when you use it, you lose the sand. It flies all over you. You'd have to sweep it back up if you want to try and reuse it, as opposed to your cabinet.
Yeah, it was.
Your cabinet reuses the sand. You don't have to worry about. Right.
Correct.
That's a big
but you
difference.
you could put that into a cabinet too, I guess. So, the airline, if you ran a feed into your, if you ran into a cabinet, you could keep it. But yeah, I think it's probably a standalone device for the most part. You'd use outside, and you'd lose your media unless you put like a tarp out or something to collect it. Might be able to just hold this one up. I also tried this as just, again, another really cheap spot blaster, they call it. Again, Harbor Freight. I'm honorary Dutchman, so I wasn't, didn't want to pay much money to try this stuff out. It's still a siphon feed, so there's one tube coming out the bottom, and it would connect to a gun right there. So the air would be pulling a vacuum, if you will, a siphon, but it really helps if you have it up in the air. I didn't find this to work very well at all. And that's not to say that it doesn't. Maybe I just didn't know what I was doing either. So if anybody else has tried this stuff, I'd be interested to hear about it too. Any questions on those two? All right, I'm going to slide back to the cabinet then. See if I can zoom in here. Turn this light up there now. So this is, again, another cheap kind of item from Harbor Freight. It, I think it's like $130, maybe, something like that. So a little more investment. It doesn't come with probably everything you would want to have. Here's, you put your arms in here. It's got a glass top. It's designed for this top to come off if you're, you need to have something to protect your glass, because it'll frost up if you're using glass media, for example, that's harder than the glass. If you're using something else that was softer, like soda or walnut shells, for example, you wouldn't have to worry about your glass frosting. So here's what comes with it. It's just and this is frosted up. This is a glass or a little plastic insert. So it's designed to, you'd have to take all these screws off to replace this, which is as you can imagine, it's a pain in the butt. And the first time I did it, I cracked my glass trying to get it back on. So I had watched a Trent Bosch, so it's a very good sandblasting demo, and I watched that, and I got the idea. He just tapes, this thing to the inside, which you can probably see here a little bit certainly when I switched to the boom. So anything, like a plastic, how you have the overhead projector, the old time, overhead projector things. That's kind of what these are now. I just have 3 of them taped together. So when it comes, it has openings. If I can rotate this. It's got let's see here. All right, so there's an opening here. You have to do all the fittings if you want to use it this way. So I have fittings coming in here for my airline. And then further back is right there is an air inlet. So right there is where the air comes in, as you're pulling through. And then right here, I'm going to get this out of the way for a second. So right here, this hole is where you pull out for exhaust. And again, none of this, is included when you buy this. And I'm not advocating that you need to buy this. You can, build your own or do something else. But this is just, what process that I went through. So you definitely need dust extraction because number one, it just gets really cloudy in there, and you can't really see what's going on from all the broken up media, if you will, that's being thrown around. Number two is it's also a very good safety, to help you to stop breathing anything that's getting blown out of the cabinet. At first, I was thinking, I didn't have the dust collection, and I'll just caulk all the joints, and I looked at it and used it, and then you could see this dust cloud coming out. You're like, well, I don't want to be breathing that, so dust collection is definitely a necessity.
So the dust collection only picks up dust; it doesn't pick up the sand, the media.
It probably not. I mean, if some bounced up there, it would go in the hole, I would imagine. But yeah, it does a really good job of pulling the dust off. And if you Google, on the internet, Harbor Freight dust collection or cabinet modifications, there's everybody been doing all kinds of things, and that's kind of where I got this idea for the Cyclone. So I'm going to go down here, and this is just Cyclone that'll pull the dust out, shoot it into the bucket. This is where the vacuum is pulled out from there to your whatever you have. In this case, it's a shop vac. So the one I bought is Chinese, so it's in metric, so it's not going to fit standard fitting. So that's why these pipe clamps are on here, rubber pipe clamps, just to make a good fitting. And I think I was even able to turn a piece of PVC that went into here pretty nice. So it's not even glued in there. It's just, sitting there. And also added the light then. So you need a light and at first, again, I tried this, and while I can't even see with the dust and no light, you can't see anything in there. So you definitely need to add light and dust collection. So there's kind of the cabinet in a nutshell. Inside, all right, we'll get rid of. Okay, so there's the dust port going out. There's 2 rubber gloves in here, and then you can see the airline. You got to have a fitting on the inside to hook up your gun to. In this case, I've just put fittings on there so I could do quick connects. And there's a little screen, if you can see that. It's, pretty flimsy, but it just allows you to put stuff on there. And then you can see the media in the bottom. In this case, it's crushed glass. And then there's a hole. I'm not going to show it, but there's a hole at the bottom that you can drain your media out and then put something else in if you want. Again, there's people that'll have stuff on the internet. You can put a quick valve on there so you can do it real quick. But in my case, I just have a cap on there. And then there's the door here that's got 2 clamps on it. You can see that, and so they just have a rubber seal on it to have it dust tight, if you will. So the only 2 real openings are that air inlet in the back, and then the dust collection on the other side. All right. Any questions on cabinet so far?
Hey, Tom, this is Tom Penning. I have just a couple suggestions. I've done a lot of sandblasting. One thing you have to do is make sure your air is really dry. So your typical little air dryer might not be good enough. And the second thing is you want to make sure you vent your shop vac outside and wear air breathing protection when you're doing it, because crushed glass is not good for your lungs.
Right, and I'll get into safety a little bit more here. Oop, am I?
Camera.
Sorry.
There you go.
I was just going to back
I'll,
up. I'm sorry. I'm just going to back up what Tom said, being an amateur astronomer and into mirror making. Several people in the mirror industry have died from silicosis from breathing in the glass particles. So very important to have extra protection.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And I would, I use this when I'm doing anything, which is, a face respirator. So it has, very good dust exclusion capabilities, and you have a good seal around your mouth. So I don't, something like an N95 mask isn't acceptable, I guess, in my mind. And then you're right, you can have a HEPA filter on your shop vac too. That would give you a little more, final dust removal, if you will. So, from a engineering control, if you can prevent anything from getting to you and not having to use a mask, that's the best way of going about it. So, dust collection, HEPA filters, vented outside, those are all very good ideas. All right. So moving on to airflow. This is a progression thing for me, and Tom Penninga, you can certainly jump in at any time, but airflow is the most, CFM is very important here. So how much CFM you get to your blasting cabinet, and the compressor I have is woefully inadequate. It's designed for 6.5 CFM. It looks fairly big for a shop. You might be very good for, doing a lot of shop work. It still would be low for air tools, I would think, for, air hammers and not focusing again.
Go back there and move the compressor. There it goes. Now it's there. It just needs you to get out of the picture.
I just need to get out of the way, don't I? So to get around that, and I'm in the process of maybe getting myself a bigger compressor, so that'll help out tremendously. But that's what led me to having this pressure tank, and I know everybody else wouldn't have this capability, but I happen to have the tank here, so it was no cost to me, another Dutch kind of thing. So this is probably a 60-gallon, air tank, and we would use it on air compressors for a treatment system again. So I'll just show you quickly how it's set up. It's kind of fun to play around with. I'm able to put it on a wheel so I can move it around. Over on this side here is where the air comes. Whoops, I'm sorry. Air comes in on this side from the compressor. I got a valve over there. Put a drop pipe on there to help, maybe get some moisture out. There's also another valve on the bottom to let air out of the tank. And then over on this side, I have a pressure gauge. See if you. Right. Okay, so right here is a pressure gauge. And then also something that maybe most people wouldn't have, but this is a flow meter, so I can get an idea how much CFM. I was kind of curious, well, what are you really getting? And I get about 5 CFM from that compressor, which is, and even with some of the modifications I've done, is still less than what it says it's capable of giving. So 5 CFM again is not going to get you very far. So what I'm showing you right now is not very adequate. So lessons, if you want to try this, just things to consider. What size of compressor do you use, Tom P?
Mine is 8, but I used to work for Progressive Blasting, and they had gazillions of cubic feet per minute. So
I would be jealous to have something like that. I did have a friend who had a larger one, and I brought some of the guns and stuff over there, and that was nice to use. Jeff Grill, I think, gets what, 10 or 12 if I remember right, and that worked better even than this one. So airflow is key, I think, to really be able to do this kind of stuff. You want something upwards of 15 CFM would be really, really nice. So as you'll, when I use this, it'll come down fairly quickly. So I get maybe a minute or two of blasting. So if you want to do anything, longer on your piece, it's not very adequate. So just doing these little details is kind of what I'm capable of doing right now.
Tom, the blast guns have a rating of CFM. And the reality is all you need to do is have the same amount in your compressor and you should be good to go. The problem is as you change the nozzles in the blast guns, it lets out more cubic feet of compressed air, and that's where you start running into trouble. But each blast gun, when you buy them, has a CFM rating. And as long as you have a compressor that'll produce that much, you're good to go. Well, for example, this compressor, it only gives 5 CFM. So is rated for 6.5 from what I'm seeing. And I've added larger diameter stuff to the fittings. It just goes down really quickly. It just can't keep up. So the issue is CFM from the compressor, I think, for the most part. But you're right. I could see where whatever your gun's designed for, that's what it's going to let out. And I'll talk about that next here. So some of the things I did include, larger, well, let me.
Didn't even know you left, babe.
Show over to a hose here. This is a learning experience for me, but most of that stuff you buy is 1/4-inch hose, which it's not going to let much air through, as it turns out. So I upgraded them to 1/2-inch hose. So I'll just zoom over to, let's see here. If I get out of the way, if it'll. Anyway, This hose here is 1/2 inch. We'll see if it comes into focus.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not coming in. So that's 1/2 inch hose. So, you know, that allows more CFM due to, you know, line loss. Like a 1/4 inch hose is like I said, you know, it's inadequate. All right, now I gotta get the, let me
Put
just,
something down there, it'll go to it.
yeah. All right. There we go.
There you go.
See if I can zoom in there. This is opposite, so you got to think opposite.
Yep, opposite.
So most of maybe what people are, and I did a little, where did I go here?
It's opposite. You went the wrong way.
Opposite world. So, and I'm maybe other people that can provide some more info on this, but you know, most of what you might see in the big box stores, you know, there's a whole host of different, these are air fittings. So what you connect to your hose, your guns. In my understanding, this is an industrial standard plug, and maybe the name might be Milton M. If anybody else wants to comment, they can. So this is like a 3/8 threaded fitting. This would be a male version. Here's a female version on this end. So standard industrial, you know, air fitting. There's as it turns out, there's tons of these. Probably, you know, everybody that invented one had their own. This is called a Lincoln plug, which I had floating around. I didn't really know what it was till I was reevaluating these. And here are two that I just got. They're called high volume, or V, or Milton V. You can see that the holes are quite a bit bigger than this, you know, your standard industrial plug. So these allow, you know, I don't know how much, but you can see that volume there is way over twice the volume of that. So that really helped out on airflow in my case. These are aluminum, so they're very light. Probably most people are aware of how this works, but this is the other receiving end. So the male fitting. This is the male connector, and it's got some ball bearings in there and a ring. And when you pull back this sleeve, it allows you to push your fitting in there. Whoops, this is not, I need to use the standard one. So you push it in, close it up, and then that holds those rings in there. So you actually need, you know, the female for this too, because this one, as you can see, doesn't fit. All right, any questions on that or more info from anybody?
I have a comment on those fittings. I worked a lot in coatings application on the automotive and interior business, and I used to do a lot of problem solving for, you know, HVLP guns in particular. And those fittings, the one you showed, the V, I think you called it a V, certainly would be better. But the more quick connects you have on a line, it'll step it down, and you'll lose volume over each one slightly. But if you have a lot of them in there, so I guess my point is, use as few quick connects as possible to improve airflow.
Right, good point, because yeah, you know, each time you go through here, you're going to restrict it, right? So, yeah. And which is why I started playing around with larger hose size and these fittings, so that as I, in between the fittings, if you will, I had as much airflow as I could get from the hose. All right. So moving on to guns. And again, my experience is from what I've got from Harbor Freight here. So if anybody else can add in, great. I'm gonna talk about what I have. I'm gonna get rid of me for a second. All right, so here's the 3 guns that I have. This is 2 trigger guns, and one of these came with this little spot blaster. I think it was this one, and this one came with the Harbor Freight cabinet, I believe. And this one came with the pressure blaster, and it's more of just a valve. So it's very hard to work. I was trying this in the cabinet, for example, and if you want to do stuff, you got to be going with 2 hands, pulling this valve. So it does not work well, in a cabinet situation. So it's kind of like on or off, but you gotta work that valve. So it's very simple. It's just, like a PEX fitting, almost a valve and a compression fitting. So there's not much to it. So I'm going to put that aside. This one is a trigger type gun. So you would have your air connect right down there. So this is your air fitting, and then your pickup tube for your media goes right on there. And I like this one because I can put different tips in there that I have, but it's something's happened and it doesn't work, so I need to take it apart and see if I can fix it. This is another trigger style. This is one I'm using today. So same process. Here's the trigger. Here's your air connection on the bottom. It has that purple high flow connection, and then excuse me, the pickup tube right here, which pulls the vacuum through a Venturi action, pulls the media up into here. I have a band clamp on here, but if you have a ring clamp or something, probably a little cleaner look, if you will. And the tips on this one, again, this is from Harbor Freight. I'm just going to pull that out. These are a little different. They have, you can buy them with different orifice volumes in them. You can see these 2 are fairly similar. I think a smaller volume is probably better for the work, for this type of, art type work. Excuse me. Let me get a drink here. So to me, this hole might be a little big. Does anybody else have a comment on that? Here are some of the other ones that go in that other gun, and you can see I can get, this one is like 1/8 of an inch. So I think that's a good size with the grit that, where I'm using crushed glass. So just there's an example of different ceramic pieces, tips. All right. Any questions on guns and tips? So the other part of this then is the pickup part. So I'm going to switch to me. Oops, there's sand coming out. So these work by basically, okay, here we go. Picking up the media through a port and then from a vacuum or Venturi action, pulling the grit up and out through the gun. So that air rushing past, the inside the gun, it's gonna create a vacuum and pull the grit up. So the other part of it is you need to have some type of airflow down to the pickup area. That's why this is homemade, but a two-piece part. Here's where the grit comes in, and then there's actually holes drilled in this. Get out of the light here. Internally, so the air comes down, and then up. Air comes down, goes through a hole into here, and then goes back up into the gun. Well, the one that came from Harbor Freight was kind of like two cylinders together, right? So one pipe that was smaller, a little bit smaller, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I actually had it on so tight that I blocked off the outer ring, and I wasn't getting any air. So to figure that out took a little while. And again, something looking online, figuring it out. This, people had the same problem with those pickup tubes. So I was gonna take the one that I got from Harbor Freight, and so I took it apart, and then I went to weld it together, and I actually melted through. So that's why I ended up abandoning that and making this copper one. So again, this is what you need to have a pickup tube. Any questions on that? All right, I'm going to move on to media here.
Tom, I just want you to know you're not by yourself.
I'm not by myself?
No, we're all here with you, even though nobody's talking.
We're just quiet as mice.
You're enthralled, I'm sure, right?
We're busy taking notes.
Yeah, well, there's a lot here, and if this will hopefully give people an idea of what's involved if you want to give this a try, if you've never done it before. It is involved. So, mostly what I have here, I got again from Harbor Freight at first. And then I'd heard, through like Rudy Lopez, I was talking to him a little bit. And then Trent Bosch, I watched his presentation, and seems like crushed glass is the way to go. It gives you the best, thing for this art type of sandblasting. But I'm going to go through kind of what I have and what the uses might be. So I first tried, and I know people will cringe at this, but I just bought some, white sand. So they warn you about, using sand for sandblasting, but I did it outside, and I even had a fan blowing, away from me, and I had my respirator on. So, I felt pretty good and, and safe, but, they recommend now using white sand. So you can see how fine that is.
Camera.
Oh, sorry. Probably wondering what I'm doing, huh? Okay, so white sand, you can see how fine that is. And then for fossil polishing, I tried some of this walnut grit media, if you will. So there's walnut grit, and that's, it's not going to work for wood, but just another media that's out there. I think people use it for polishing brass, for example, in tumblers. But I tried it out for polishing rocks, fossils, if you will. So also out there from Harbor Freight is aluminum oxide, which is black. Okay, right there. And I tried this, and first thing that happened is it's black and it sticks to the wood, which at first you're like, well, that's not what I want, but actually it differentially sticks in the softer stuff. So if you have, you can actually accent the wood with using that, because it'll stick and have, the soft areas will be darker black, if you will, and then the light, the harder areas will not absorb it. So it could be used as an accent kind of blasting.
Tom, the walnut looks pretty coarse. Do you have to have a special nozzle for that?
Well, it is coarser, definitely coarser than the sands. This just to put a nozzle there. I mean, it's still a lot smaller than the nozzle, so you can use it. I'll just leave that there maybe. All right, I'm gonna move up here. Also, I got some glass beads from Jeff Grill, and when we tried that out. So those are glass beads as opposed to cut glass or ground glass. Zoom in here. I guess you can't really see much of a difference, but they're beads, so they're round, so they're not as aggressive as like sand or the aluminum carbide or the crushed glass.
Can you get all these media from like Harbor Freight, or you have to shop around to get these?
You can get the walnut, the walnut and the aluminum oxide from Harbor Freight. The sand I just got from like Menards and a play sand kind of thing. The glass beads you'd have to buy somewhere. I don't know where Jeff got his beads. That's where this came from. That's more of a specialty type media, but a lot of this stuff you can just go online and there's blasting supply companies out there that'll sell you anything you want. Here's the crushed glass then. So this has little sharper edges to it, a little more aggressive than the beads. And, from what I've seen, it seems to work pretty well. The other thing I've heard of is something called, what's it called? Black Beauty, which is like a ground slag. And I think it's comparable and even more aggressive than this crushed glass, because it would have sharper edges on it. And there's also garnet out there, which is a mineral. So it'd have sharper edges, maybe a little more aggressive than the glass I've heard. Probably not as durable, like, I'm not sure. I haven't used it. So, and then soda. Harbor Freight sells soda, which would be a lot softer, and that's more of a polishing, type compound like the walnut. It would just use it maybe for doing fossils in my case, or if you wanted to polish metal, you might put that on there to get a high sheen on something. All right, so that's grits. Any questions on the grit?
Tom,
Okay.
I was just going to mention that some of those grits you can get in different sizes too. So like glass bead, you can get in a variety of sizes.
Yeah, if you look on the website that's selling this stuff, it would, there's all kinds of sizes and choices. So, just to give you the size of the crushed glass, I got it here somewhere. So let's see here. This one is the crushed glass, and I bought that on Amazon. It came in a 5-gallon bucket. It's called, the sieve size is 25 to 40, if that, anybody can picture that if you're a geologist. And I think the micron size was somewhere in the 400 microns, maybe 100 to 400, something like that. Ballotini is the name of the company, I believe. And that's something I learned watching Trent Brosh's video. I can put that in an email if somebody's interested. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, sorry. Get on to some blasting here.
Yeah, we want to see some chips flying.
You want to see some action, don't you?
Yes, we're ready for some action.
So, open grains are going to be your best type of wood, something that has a strong grain, and then certainly softer wood and harder wood. So it's going to differentially, excavate that softer wood. I like, playing around with the end grain. So that's mostly what I've done, but you can do anything on a side of a vase, for example, or a bowl. And then we'll get into here talking about resists and how to mask things off. But here is just a thin slice of red oak. So we're going to go ahead and blast this. Let's just show you how thin it is. This side I had turned smooth and it had cracked, so I'd kind of given up on it. This side was cut with I think on the bandsaw, and I blasted this side the other day, so you can see kind of how it's relieved already. So I'm gonna put that in there, and we'll blast the smooth side. So I'll get set up for that. I'm gonna switch to my top camera now. So this is gonna be looking inside the cabinet, and I'll try the best to get a good view for you.
And then move it towards the back, maybe. And at the front of the cabinet, I think. You're going to be working.
See, I'm gonna just put my hand in here so I know it's. All right, so about right there. Okay, that looks pretty good. So there's the piece. So you can kind of see I've jammed that siphon tube down into the media, and the gun is connected up to the airline here. Close up the cabinet. I'm gonna turn the dust collector on, so it might be loud for a little bit, but I have the compressor off. So here we go. What, did that come through?
Yeah. Yep, we heard it.
keep that closed real quick. All right, so there's kind of the effect. You can kind of see through a little bit. Is that coming through?
Yep.
All right.
So Tom, you were using crushed glass. Is that true?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
You were using the crushed glass for that blast?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Do you find that that cuts the wood quicker than the aluminum oxide?
I would say they're somewhat comparable, though again, like I said, it would stick. You know, if I had done this with the aluminum oxide, it'd be sticking in there. And then same with silicon carbide, which if you're familiar with that from rock, if you own a rock polisher, you probably have, you know, silicon carbide and the same thing. You know, it cuts pretty well, but it sticks in the wood and you can see it, how dark it is. So there's probably, you know, crushed glass stuck in here. You just can't see it because it blends in, would be my guess.
Yeah, that's really dramatic though. I mean, you only took a half a minute to do that.
Yeah, and this is thin, so, you know, it's gonna happen pretty quickly. All right.
Tom, what effect does the debris that you're blasting out of there is mixing with your media? Does that eventually have to be changed, the whole hopper full, or what?
Yeah, good question. And I learned this from watching Trent Bosch's video or presentation. You know, that's a good reason for the dust collector, because all that's getting kicked up. And if you didn't have the dust collection, you know, like you said, you'd have all this wood would be getting into the grit. So, you know, that dust collection pulls it out and should end up in that bucket there.
It looked like you had a 90-degree angle of attack on it. If you were to come from an angle or something, would there be a different effect? Would it allow you to get under the medulla rays of the wood, or? Not sure. You know, I guess I haven't done. You know, I think you're trying to get as much excavation as you can. So. You know, you might have if you have a lot of relief, I could see where it might cut off the front side and not the back. But I think overall you're just hoping for more excavation on that softer wood, would be my take on it.
So you usually use the crushed glass mostly? Is that your favorite? Your preferred?
Yeah,
method?
I think the crushed glass works the best. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
From what I've seen.
And where did you get that from? You bought that from Amazon? 5-gallon?
Yep. And, you know, if somebody's really interested, I got, you know, you don't use much, so I'm willing to sell some to someone else if they don't want to buy a bucket. So I might save some cost there too. But yeah, you get a 5-gallon pail that weighs 50 pounds, so be prepared to move it around when you get it. I don't have the best back anymore, so.
So don't ask you to move our bucket of sand around?
No. All right, any questions on the initial blast? Well, I got some other things to do. So I'll just kind of playing around with different ways of, you know, what can you do? Let's see here. So I was just playing around with this the other day. This is a big thin thing I tried to make. Oh, there we go. And I did this last night just to practice. So we'll see if we can do this again today. So I would burn this first, and I'm going to show you that real quick because it's kind of neat, the effect you have on the wood. For those of us interested in thin things and moving your wood around, when I hit this with a torch, it starts moving. So it's kind of giving me some ideas on, playing around with that. So I got a torch here. Okay. There we go. My idea here is to, make the background black, if you will, from the burning, and then we'll put some resist on there to give us a pattern. So that's what I'm up to here. All right, so I'm just gonna burn this a little bit. And so it's starting to curl towards me, which is kind of neat. I'll do the other side. Kind of neat that there's still some turning marks on there. They're showing up. All right, I was trying not to set that on fire because it's so thin. I'm going to switch over to the side just to see if that comes. See how it's kind of started to bend there. Oh, that's kind of neat stuff. All right, so here's my test piece, if you will. And now I'm going to talk about resist. All right, so I got a little piece of, it's basically a rubber mat, and it's got adhesive inside of it with a little plastic coating like that. So I can just cut whatever shapes I want out. This is about, looks like it's less than the 16th for sure. Maybe a 60, little bit thicker than the 64th. So I understand there's a lot of different stuff out there. You can, again, if you're interested, you can check out these blasting supply companies. I got this from Daryl, and appreciate that, just to play around with. So I'm going to cut out some shapes and put them on there. So I'm going to switch the camera again. Any questions on that so far?
So the resist you're going to put on the area that you don't want the sand to affect, right?
Yes, so I'll make a pattern, and I'm going to blast, the dark stuff will be blasted away, and when we come back, we'll have black, which was protected by the resist, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I'll just make some, I'm going to switch here. How much of this you want to watch me do, but I'll just cut out some shapes. See if we, all right, so we'll make some leaf shapes. I'm not going to be very careful here. So this is just to take up time, right? So I can get to an hour. I found when I was playing around with this, this has adhesive on it, but if you have really small pieces, I've seen it gets blasted off pretty easy. So hopefully we'll get lucky here. Any questions while I'm cutting? This is probably a good time.
That's not a question, more of a comment, but I have a friend that does paper cuts, large, paper cut design type stuff. That would be kind of interesting to have a big, huge pattern on here.
I've heard you can put this stuff through like a vinyl cutter, and then you could have any CNC pattern or computer generated pattern you want, and then blast that pattern. These may be a little big for my area here, but I'll just put a couple on for. So I pulled off the plastic, and now I'm going to press it on there. If any of you watch This Old House, sometimes they have at the end of the show, they talk about different artists, and one of them was a glass artist, and she sandblasted all her designs, onto the glass. So she was cutting out very intricate, little pieces of this stuff and blasting the glass, and then so that was very cool. And so she was able to, have these stick on pretty well. All right, I'm going to really bear down on these. Okay, so over to the sandblast unit. All right, I am losing pressures and I don't have the compressor on, so we'll see how we do. All right, it's gonna be noisy for a little bit. Here we go. The other thing to do is probably wait a little bit before you open the door, kind of another safety item. It'll let all the dust settle down. All right, so going to table camera. And then I will pull off these guys and see what we have. I was really running out of power there because I hadn't built it up. So see what we got. So there is a ridge there. I don't know if you can see that. So it has excavated down and left the pattern there. And another, you could do this with color, and then do the same thing. So, you know, for example, if I'd colored this ahead of time, you know, blasted around it, you'd end up with colored areas. But I'm not going to do that because I'm running out of power. All right. Well, I think that's about it. Probably wrap up here and see if there's any other questions.
Anybody got any questions? Okay, well, thanks a lot, Tom. That was a great demo. We really appreciate it. So everybody can go out and buy themselves a sandblaster, and next month show us what you did on show and tell.
There you go.
Get a hold of Tom if you have any other questions. Okay, well, let's move on. We've got some giveaways. Let's get through our giveaways. One other thing, Tom Penninga, you asked, I see your message about the veneer logs that you have. Tom Penninga has picked up a bunch of veneer logs from a place that they discard the logs after they cut the veneer off, and he had started out with over 50 of them. And how many do you have left there, Tom?
28, something like that.
Okay. And $5 a piece, right? They're $5 a piece if somebody wants some.
There's cedar, koa, walnut, and curly maple and bird's eye maple. And if people want them, I can get more of them.
Okay. If you still have a piece of that curly